Get ready for your unofficial dental hygiene podcast. These are the tales of two hygienists, one East Coast RDH and one West Coast hygienist. Listen as they tackle the profession of dental hygiene with humor and enthusiasm. Now, please join Michelle Strange and Andrew Johnston as they tell you a tale of two hygienists.
Welcome back, listeners.
Oh, so much enthusiasm, Andrew.
That's what I got. That's what I got this week. You know,
Welcome back, listeners, to A Tale of Two Hygienists with Michelle and Andrew. See, one of us has to pick up the other slack. You did it for me last week. I'll do it for you this week. You are welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much. No,
Why are you so tired?
Well, I'm lazy and no energy drinks, and I've been traveling.
Here we are again with the energy drinks.
No, this is going to be it. I mean, I've proved that I could do it, right? And so it's not like weighing on my mind if I can or can't do it. It's just going to happen. I'm just not going to do it.
Okay. You say so, buddy.
Well, part of it was that they didn't sponsor the podcast. If they were going to sponsor the podcast, I would continue to drink Red Bull.
Continue to drink it. Yeah, but I don't have a wine sponsor, but here I am still drinking wine.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's a little bit different.
So you're tired because you gave up energy drinks, and you're actually in a hotel room right now. Because where are you?
I'm in a place called Lincoln City, Oregon, and it's on the coast. Like the ocean's like right there. And it has the world's shortest river.
Interesting.
Yeah. I guess it's 120 feet, 120 meters. I don't remember how they measured it. But it basically, there is like a lake type thing. And then there's like the overpass for the highway. And it goes under the overpass and then trickles down into the beach.
Interesting.
And they call it a river. So, whatever.
Whatever.
Guess what else I learned about that?
What?
Not that you care, but I'm going to tell you some more stuff. So they had the Guinness Book of World Records people like come out and verify that worked. And there's a place in Montana, like in 2002 or something, that said, no, we have the shortest river. And so then the Guinness people went out there and said, yeah, it is shorter. And then the Lincoln City people got all pissy about it, and they said, no, you just didn't measure ours at high tide. And so then they gave a new measurement during high tide so that they could win again. And in 2006, the Guinness Book of World Records said, you know what? I am not going to play this game with you guys anymore. We are not going to recognize this as a stat any longer.
Wow.
So yeah.
That's an interesting fact, and I definitely should have started drinking before that story.
Yeah, sorry about that. Well, I was talking to my son last night, and I was telling him about the river. I was like, well, let me look up, how long it is. And then that's what I found out. I'm like, it's a lie. Never mind. Because they have a big sign that says, world's shortest river.
Oh, man. Liar, liar, pants on fire.
Freaking Lincoln City.
Perfect.
Can I also tell you some stuff about this area?
Sure.
Not like traveling stuff, but and I don't know. I really don't want this to come off as I'm not trying to badmouth this area, but Oregon in general, it seems that there's a lot harder cases than in Washington.
Ah, really?
Yeah.
Why? What makes it more like calculus, more perio, more restorative? What are you talking about?
Everything.
All of it? Their oral health is just Or?
And this is completely subjective. My opinion, yeah. It's I don't have the numbers to prove that what I'm saying is true, but it just feels like every time I come down to Oregon that the quality of the mouth, that especially the new patients, for example, here I've had several new patients, and we've had okay, let me back up a little bit. So one of the assistants was writing down on a list of all the restorative needs and all of like the watches and all that stuff. And she filled up the like regular size piece of paper from top to bottom full of needs and findings.
Wow.
Not like existing, but like these are like, okay, there's incipient. We have different like classes of incipiencies, and so we had to mark out every single one. She's boom, 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 all the way down. There's just that many. And that happened a couple of times.
Really?
With my patients. Yeah.
So definitely restorative, it seems.
Definitely restorative. But, I mean, with those types of patients, though, I mean, there was a lot of perio needs, too. It's just really sad. I mean, it wasn't just, a prophy, so.
Do you have a thought or a reason or a hypothesis as to why?
I do, but it's not something for the general public and the podcast. I think it's a little bit negative, and I just don't want people to think that I think less of them, but I think that has to do with like the socioeconomic status of a lot of the people here.
Well, I think that's pretty common all over, though.
Well,
I don't think that would be any different than if you went to, I don't like my area, Charleston, in a lower income area.
Yeah, but I just don't want people to be like, oh, Andrew, you're such a jerk, because my segment for later on is kind of, I'm a jerk there too, so I don't want to be the jerk for the whole podcast.
Good stuff. All right.
Yeah, but that's kind of what I believe. That's kind of what's going on. And okay, this other weird thing that I just don't get, all of the patients, not all, I'm sorry, 80% of the patients today were wearing pajamas when they came in to have their teeth done today.
I just think that's a trend all over. How old were they?
All different ages.
Oh,
except
really?
for the older, like 50 and above, they didn't. But less than 50, yeah.
Oh, less than 50. I would have definitely said in your 20s for sure, but not
30s, 40s.
Interesting. Yeah. I guess they didn't have to work today.
Okay, let me tell you another story. This will be the last story about this thing. So there's a patient today that was coming in, and we had a couple of fillings on the upper left, and that would have completed her treatment. And she came in, and she's like, and they were treatment planned like a year ago. Like, she's just not, following up with stuff and whatever. But they're painful now. Well, then she comes in today, and she says, well, this lower right one, the filling fell out. And there was like, the filling fell out, plus there's, some recurrent decay. And so we're like, oh, we could probably do them all for you. That way, your mouth can get, back into balance a little bit. And she's like, well, no, I have to work today. Now, mind you, this was like 8 o'clock in the morning. This was our 8 o'clock patient. And, like, oh, okay, well, which one would you want us to do? And she's like, well, I want the lower right one, just the one, not the one that had been treatment planned a long time ago because they're already kind of bad, but this new one. I'm like, okay. Come to find out, she didn't have to work until 6 o'clock at night, 8 a.m., and she's like, no, I have to work today. I can only do one filling.
No.
And then when we started asking her a little bit more, she works at a pizza place, and she works from like 6 to 12. Must be.
Wow.
It's
just
6 to 10. It was 6 to 10. It was only a 4-hour shift.
It's the battle that we fight with working with the public. Sometimes your priority is not their priority.
Yeah.
And it's like, how do you get them to see the importance?
Yeah, definitely.
Crazy.
So that's kind of what's going on for me.
Nice. I'm in California. I'm at Tepe headquarters.
Well, I'm glad you survived enough to get there.
Yeah, just went through Hurricane Matthew. That was fun times.
It didn't look so bad on your end. I mean, flooding and rain and high winds, but not like...
No, South Carolina, I don't think had any deaths. My mom, my uncle, and my grandfather all have to total out their cars from flooding, which really sucks.
No.
Yeah. There's a lot of cleanup at my mom's house, but my place was fine. No damage, and I was out without power for only like 30 hours or something. So it was kind of like camping in my house for a little bit. Only thing I was concerned about was break-ins, because there was a lot of that happening, and all throughout. I mean, even before the storm hit, like once people had evacuated, there was reports of it happening in a lot of neighborhoods. And so it wasn't a big deal until nighttime came without electricity. And it's like, okay, now this is a little creepy. But I loaded my shotgun and like a good Southern girl. And I was actually dog sitting. So I had my pit bull and this giant lab. And the two of them together sounded like they would eat somebody alive at my front door. So I felt very safe after I heard Bear and Lola tell me when a friend came by. And I was like, oh, yeah, no one's coming in this house.
But no one came in anyway, or no one came by anyways?
Like, to loot?
Like, yeah.
No.
Like bad guys. No close calls for you.
Not that I'm aware of, at least.
That's no fun.
Negative. And I am allowed to shoot to kill in my state.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah. I don't remember what law it was, but even if they're like on my doorstep, if I felt threatened, I could shoot and kill. Good old
Good to know.
South Carolina.
Good to know.
Yep, so survived.
Never show up on your doorstep unannounced.
Don't do it, because I'm a good shot.
So does it feel weird that the sun is still up?
Right now? For me?
Yeah.
Because it should be...
Because you're on the West Coast right now.
Yeah, because it should be
It's like
almost
10
10 o'clock
or
for me. And I woke up at like 4:45 too to catch my flight. I'm pretty exhausted. I get to a point where I'm delirious after a while. Like, you're just so tired that just get your second wind and you just keep on going. But that's about it happening on my end. We have a good interview today.
We have a great interview today.
Yeah.
So this is from day one, right, of our interviews at Under One Roof.
Yes. Debbie Z, and I'll let you say her last name.
Debbie Z. We don't have to.
Because she says it for us.
She just goes by Debbie Z. And we also have Sarah as our special co-host.
Yeah, special co-host. Thanks, Sarah.
So that was good. So that is coming up today.
Can I just have a venting session?
Sure.
If you are any way associated with your state board or state association, and you have not already been a part of CE Zoom, go ahead and resign your post because you're an idiot.
Sarah's going to love that.
And I love Sarah, and I would support her 100%. But this is not because I love Sarah. This is because I put in all of my credits from my state meeting that I was just at. And we had some new regulations for my state, so I had to make sure I was complying with those. And the things that I learned about what I was being offered, the things that I learned about how it was, who was actually saying, oh yeah, you meet these requirements, they weren't necessarily being met. And how it was given to me was where I could literally copy and paste this form, the CE certificate, and make my own. So pretty much I didn't have to attend any of those courses. I just had to get this one CE thing, and I could have said I was at all of them. So to pay all that money and not have something a little bit more official was a little annoying. And the more I learn about state associations and state regulations and how little is done to actually hold us at a standard for CEs is disgusting and despicable. And quite honestly, I'm embarrassed for our profession. And I'm done.
Wow. Well, yeah. Well, that was a good rant. I think that is something that we should definitely talk about at another time. Maybe having Sarah back on and have her explain some more things about that. But being on a state committee, I do understand what you're saying. And there are a lot of things, unfortunately, that kind of prohibit us as hygienists from like adopting law and legislation and stuff like that to do that. But I think that something like CE Zoom and the state, oh my gosh, why am I blanking on this?
We have to have better regulations.
We do, but we need dentists to help us. No,
it needs to be. It needs to come from the state board, and it needs to be within the Hygiene Association as well. Because I guarantee you, ADHA is not regulating all 50 states as it should. But we're all throwing on your state's association logo and calling it a freaking CE, and thinking that that's going to be adequate enough, and then you get audited. And either you think, oh, yeah, I got that, and I trusted my association, but that was half-assed. Or you, sorry, I see you rolling your eyes there.
No, I was yawning. Sorry.
Oh.
I'm super tired.
I'm just saying, we need to do better, and we should have Sarah back on.
Yes, I agree.
Okay, that was my other frustration, and I literally spent an hour trying to figure this out, and the more I learned about the lack of, one, accountability of who is allowing CEs to be associated with the Hygiene Association, and then how it's actually regulated and how it really, there is no accountability. Like, there's just nothing. Nothing. And I'm dumb when it comes to legislation. Like, I will be the first to admit that stuff bores me to death, and you start talking about it, and it's like squirrel, and anything else will distract me. If I understood this and was like, hey, that doesn't make sense, and that doesn't either, then there should be a lot of other people figuring this out too.
Yes.
Okay.
You're right.
Debbie Z is great, and she's our interview today.
So enjoy this interview.
Hey, Michelle.
Yeah.
It's time for the interview.
Oh, but I had something else to say.
We need to let the experts talk now.
Fine.
Listeners, welcome to another episode of the Awesomest Podcast in Dental Hygiene, a tale of two hygienists. My name's Andrew, and I'm with Michelle.
Yep,
we are on location.
In a very loud exhibit hall.
You can hear the forklifts in the background.
And we have guest host here, Sarah.
We have a guest co-host today, Sarah.
Woohoo! Whoop, whoop.
Yeah.
You might know her from episode number 14?
14.
I think it's 14.
Yeah, I'm going to be confident with that. It's
and
14.
And also an episode that was unreleased.
Yep, we're not releasing that one
we might.
ever. Okay.
It got a little rowdy.
We might have drank some wine. It happens. You know.
And our special guest today is Debbie. Debbie, I'm really sorry. I'm going to have you say your last name.
Zafiropoulos.
But she's known as Debbie Z.
Debbie Z. Debbie That's how I know her as. I just wasn't sure if that was appropriate for the podcast.
Oh, it's so appropriate.
So thank you for being here. We are going to try and condense. Yeah, I know you have a really great message to share. We're going to try and condense it as like 30 minutes if we have enough time. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Before we do that, can we talk about the award that you are winning?
Oh,
I'm so happy for you.
Thank you. So I was selected as one of the Sunstar America's Award of Distinction. I was nominated for the award, and subsequently, out of over 300 different applicants, was selected. And so it's the 15th year that this award has been shared with the community, and it's something that I'm so humbled. I'm speechless. It's unbelievable that I've been coming to Under One Roof for almost 8 years, and for 15 years they've been having this award. And every time I go and see the keynote and I watch all the recipients get their award, I look there and I'm like, I have to work harder. I got to do something. And so to actually be nominated and selected out of all these wonderful clinicians it's just really it's awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah, congratulations.
Yeah,
that's so
congratulations.
great.
Yeah.
So Sarah's going to be up there one day, and then Michelle.
And I'm like, well, we don't do anything. Well, I don't do anything.
Honestly, that award is very hard to earn. It's very difficult. How did you win it?
Well, I was nominated from a colleague of mine, Deborah Galuppi, and she wrote about the journey in or my establishment, or the necessity to find the National Cancer Network, which is a nonprofit. And so the premise of the National Cancer Network came about because I lost a dear friend who had been diagnosed with triple-negative breast cancer, beat it, went into remission, got her Barbie boobs, like she would call it, and went back to where she resided and tried to start her life over again, and ended up passing away from an undertreated, underdiagnosed oral abnormality at the base of her tongue. And so when I was doing a program in Texas, in Dallas, and she lived in Houston, so I said, let me come and see you. This is before she subsequently passed away. And I said, I'll come and see you, and, let me just take a look and, guide you in the right direction. And she said, no, I'm going to go to a dentist, and, I'll have them take a look at it. And I was like, okay, well, make sure they do an abnormality exam. Make sure that they palpate you. Make sure that they, do what I call a lump, bump, and bulge test. Look for something the size of a sesame seed, poppy seed, grain of rice, and really answer your questions. And she says, okay. The unfortunate thing is that that she was scheduled for a routine hygiene appointment.
Yeah.
And she received a routine hygiene appointment and basically told me the hygienist cleaned her teeth and then told the doctor that she was complaining of something that felt like a popcorn kernel in the back of her tongue that she just couldn't get rid of. And when the doctor came in... I'm sorry?
No, did they say anything was visual? Or at that time, no?
From her explanation of what occurred during the appointment, I believe that they didn't even look.
Oh, my gosh.
And they did what... unfortunately, so many other people have shared with me did, which is excuse it away. And so when I talked to Lisa that night when I finally got there at 4:30 in the morning, and she told me what happened, I got angry. And then I grabbed her and we went into the bathroom and I basically stuck my finger down her throat and felt something the size of a hard pea. And I said, we need to talk to your oncology team. And she's like, I don't want to know. And so if you think about what we go through, and we want to tell, we want to do air quoting an oral cancer exam, most of our patients don't want to know. They just want to have their teeth cleaned. They want to get out of pain. They just want to do whatever the insurance covers for them. And it's unfortunate that they either opt themselves out of care or we opt them out for them. And so what happened, from what the patient said, from what my friend said, was the doctor came in and basically said, the hygienist's name will remain nameless, said that she told me that you had gone through a lot of medical complications over the past 18 months and, your body's probably trying to repair itself, and just use this dry mouth solution and we'll check you back in 6 months. And she never made it to 6 months. And so when we felt it and I insisted that she go see her oncologist who treated her for the breast cancer, they did their routine screenings and sent her, for whatever examinations they need, and it was confirmed that she had stage 4 oral cancer, base of the tongue cancer that had already metastasized. Jesus. And so, when we think about cancer and the increased risk of secondary cancer, was her breast cancer the primary? Was it, where did all this abnormalities come from, and why wasn't it assessed, the whole time? And why was there a disconnect if they saw the amount of masses that she had in her breast? Why wasn't it, from head to toe, an examination done? And so with losing her and being angry about it, I put a plan into action to raise awareness to the consumer, to empower the profession, whether they're dental or medical, to find the answer to the why, but also to create a verbal sequence or system for educating the patient about the value of dental hygiene and the value of dentistry being part of medicine, not just drilling, filling, and billing, or just a hygienist just cleaning teeth. And so we start off with the objective of creating the awareness of prevention, educating the consumer, giving them a resource, giving them a safe home for them to come to and find the information that they need, build up the referral sources, and get them to where they need to get to.
It's pretty amazing. I mean, it's a sad story, but from
bad, we turn into something good.
Like this, which is incredible. So, what call to action can hygienists do from this program that you have?
I just finished a program, a 2-hour program on biofilm, and I think the biggest objective in creating change is being vulnerable and being open-minded. And one of the things that we talked about is an exercise in, seeing a guru or seeing somebody that has knowledge or listening to a speaker, and just because they're standing in the front of the room, you expect them to know everything. But yet we all go with our own knowledge. And how do we allow what they have to offer us, bring space in order for us to continue growing and learning and changing? And so it's not so much what I know. It's not so much what I've done in my past. It's the action behind the motion that creates change. And that's really what I'm all about.
That's great. That really is. So where you have a resource for hygienists to... Is it like a website?
Well, we have a website. It's nationalcancernetwork.org. It's for everyone. I mean, obviously, being a tooth fairy, it would be great to have our colleagues partner up with us. We do have what I call a visionary team. We have an advisory team. So our visionary team are people that have come to us, or friends and colleagues that have a passion to learn more about abnormality screening, learn more about being proactive to be preventive, learn more about the science and technology that's out there, and more importantly, articulate it in a fearless way. So we engage the patient in becoming their own advocate and empowering them to ask the doctor to get whatever they need done. And that's, even as someone like myself, feeling like I'm very comfortable in talking about abnormalities. I had a unfortunate thing happen to me, but it was a learning thing for me, where I had an abnormality on my forehead. And I went to a doctor. I went to a board-certified dermatologist, and I said, I have a spot on my forehead. And they just kind of looked at me and said, it's nothing, don't worry about it. Or it looks like. Well, we say that all the time to our patients. Well, it looks like a cheek bite. Oh, it looks like you did this. Oh, it looks like that. Well, I'm on their shoulder in the whispering in their ear and saying, what if it's not? And so I had to go to 3 different doctors. I fired 3 highly qualified doctors until I got one to just biopsy it. And she also said, it's nothing. Don't worry about it. And I knew in my gut that our eyes and our hands do not diagnose. And I needed a pathology. I needed a pathologist to see something on a slide to determine it. And I was diagnosed with squamous cell carcinoma.
I have a patient with that exact same story.
Mm-hmm. And so when I had the procedure done, when I went to the Mohs procedure, I asked the surgeon, and I kind of went into shock as I saw all the tools he had to use. And, I said, if I didn't basically insist on having this done, what would have happened? And he said, it's one of the slower progressing.
I might just leave that right on in.
Yeah.
So I think it's funny.
Beep, beep. It's one of the slower progressing cancers, but other people would come in or just not have it, assessed or diagnosed properly, and it would entail more therapy, chemotherapy, radiation. Maybe it would have taken my skull cap. Maybe it would have taken my eye. We don't know. And that's why with the National Cancer Network, we're trying to enable people to understand abnormalities not only behind the 2 lips, but on the epithelium that we can see.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
How many hygienists do you think actually do an oral cancer screening? Have you figured that out?
I don't have to figure it out. The statistics show, I think ADA did a survey, I'm going to say within the last 8 to 10 years, and less than 7%, I think was the last.
Gosh. And I really doing an exam or using additional tools.
I just think a basic exam.
Good
I think,
Lord.
I do want to preference one thing. It's
so
not
scary.
Necessarily just hygienists. I was just in Toronto and Montreal where there's independent hygienists, and they're very proactive. The ones that have the confidence to do what needs to be done, because it's not easy saying to the patient, we're going to do a cancer exam. And that's why with the training that we do at the National Cancer Network, we take the verbal cues and soften it to the point where it's more direct, and we're actually getting more acceptance of it, because we're taking away the fear. I don't know what cancer looks like. It's not my job, but I know what an abnormality looks like, and I know what I had to do to get the patient to the proper place to get it evaluated or to monitor it within a short period of time.
That's great. And so what kind of screening tools could we use that would be better than... I think he's just doing that to annoy me now. And Andrew's going to have a heart attack because now our audio is all
That's right. I'm writing down the times. We're good.
Yeah.
But
So
what kind of tools? Like,
Well, I think the most underutilized tool that we have is our voice.
okay.
I think that we're fearful about telling the patient the value of our education and what we do bring to the medical system. I'm a true believer that we are the most underutilized health profession in medicine.
Oh, God,
dental
yeah.
hygienists.
Yeah, I would agree.
I think that we have the ability to work in cardiology offices, cancer hospitals, dietary facilities.
Well, comes in my thesis.
Exactly.
Yes.
You know? And the fact
just
that
gonna
we're
throw it
not
on the
looked
floor,
in
just
that
lay it down.
direction, and we're pigeonholed into the, you know, the I hate the word cleaning, but we're pigeonholed into a procedure that may have no therapeutic benefit to the patient because we haven't validated the medical necessity, creates a huge issue. Mm-hmm. So to answer your question, everything is the most underutilized screening tool because one person dies every hour of oral cancer, and it hasn't changed in over 30 years.
That's insane.
And so, yeah, you can buy a swish, you can buy a light, you can buy a biopsy test, you can buy this, you can buy that. But if you don't know how to use it and you don't know how to communicate its value, we're not going to make any changes.
I want to kind of lead off onto a whole different topic. This is great. But also, what about your bra campaign? Why are we seeing Louis Myers all over Facebook covered in bras?
So, many years ago, I opened a clinic in Canada. And so it was called Pearly Whites for You. And the main objective was to be a whitening
So you were
studio.
a hygienist that
Yes,
opened a
I am the
practice
tooth fairy, yep.
in
Canada, in Ontario,
Okay.
yep. And so I kind of like to be entrepreneurial, I guess, and I had the opportunity to take the Canadian boards, which was one of the hardest boards I ever took, and did very well. I was surprised. But had an opportunity to open an office, and the ironic thing is it was based on, it was all advertising for whitening, and back in the day, Bright Smile centers were being franchised out, and in Florida I couldn't own my own practice, and in Canada I could, so that's where I went. And I had this lady walk in the door and said, "Can you whiten my teeth? I have a job interview." And I said, "Well, we need to qualify you to make sure. I would love to. I'd love to help you. But we need to make sure that what we do is going to be therapeutically beneficial and not hurt you or harm you in any way." And so she says, "Well, what does that entail?" And I told her. And so we did an assessment, and she had a couple front teeth, and she didn't have a lot of her posterior teeth. And so she did not qualify for what she wanted, but I needed to know why her mouth was in the situation that it was. And so she opened up to me, and she told me that she was in a very abusive relationship, and she was basically beaten up and lost several of her teeth because of it. And she had scars on her face and some other issues. And so it put a call to action for me.
She was missing her posterior teeth.
She was missing posterior teeth. She had some cracked teeth,
Wow.
that didn't have a real, what we would consider in the dental field an attractive smile, and somebody that we would probably, like other people do, second judge as to, would we want them representing us.
Right.
And I felt bad. But then I realized with what Canada has to offer that there was an opportunity for me to reach out to specialists and try to create an opportunity to do some pro bono work for her and give her back her self-respect so she can get back into society. And so we did. We worked with plastic surgeons, and she had some restorative work done and didn't need whitening because she had crown. She had whatever she needed to have to kind of puzzle her pieces back together. And one of the things that we did was Canada has a store called Winners, which is like our TJ Maxx here in the States. And so I kind of like to shop. So I went there and I said to them, "Would you be interested in helping one of your citizens get back into the work field? We'll try to, get some PR about it." And they said, "Yeah." And the one thing that she didn't want to try on were bras.
Why?
Just her self-confidence wasn't there. And so for some reason, I gave her one of mine, and it just started this thing. So when I came back to the States, one of the stores I frequent was a lingerie store, a bra store.
A store.
One of
them stores.
And so I was talking to the person, and I overheard a conversation, and one of the regional managers was beaten to death.
Oh, my gosh.
And so they started a campaign in her honor, and they did a bra collection for women who were suffering from domestic violence. And so that's where it all... To answer your question, that's where it came from.
That's where it all came from.
So what do we do? Okay, so I brought a bunch of bras because I saw Lewis covered, and I'm like, well, I got to join in this.
Right.
So what do you do with them from there?
So what happens is wherever I go, wherever Under One Roof is, we have partners that help collect the bras because we get quite a bit. Last year, our record was over 387.
Nice.
Imagine coming home from Vegas with all those bras in a clear trash bag. It's very fun.
Clear trash. Was that planned?
Well, the problem was that I brought a suitcase and we had a lot more donations than I had anticipated, and the only thing that the hotel would give me were clear trash bags. So I had like 8 of them, jam-packed. So imagine, the guy taking me down to the curb to get my cab to the airport, and I got all these bras, and I'm like,
what the heck
what
is
happens
wrong
in
with you?
Vegas?
Exactly.
No, it's not staying in Vegas because you're about to fly off with them.
So it's been
They're totally clean.
Yes.
Right?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I'm just
So it's been great. I mean, everyone here at Under One Roof and RDH has been very supportive, and we do a good thing for a lot of good people.
Well, I think it's fun.
Yeah.
It's really fun to do.
Different for sure,
Fun and different, yes.
Yes. We're going to include men next year. We're going to have them bring in their like tankinis or wife
Speedos?
beaters.
Yeah, run me out of stock. I don't know.
Oh, my good Lord.
So, I actually do want to transition back to that 7% that actually do the cancer screenings as we kind of trying to wrap this up a little bit. One of the things that it kind of baffles me, though, is because as an examiner for one of the testing agencies, we actually evaluate the students on how well they do a head and neck exam. Mm-hmm. It's a requirement in like 46 states if they take this certain test.
Even for it's a requirement too. So
I wasn't going to say which testing agency specifically.
Cut
but
that out.
Okay. It's all right. but it is in most states. And so why is it, though, that they are not doing it once they know how to do it? They have the foundational knowledge of it.
I ask that question every time I do a course. And my cancer course is called HPV, It's Not the Hanky-Panky Virus the Media Portrays It to Be. Oral abnormality screening for the health professional. And of course, you're raising your eyes because the HPV thing is something that we don't quite know how to articulate. But the issue is that when we switch our thinking into looking more preventive, more instead of reactive, we have the ability to save more lives because we identify things. And so I think what we learned in school, and I'm much older than you guys, probably put together, but what we learned, back in the day is very similar to what you learned. The redder the deader. If it's white, it wipes off. It's episodic. It could be fungus or a yeast infection or something else like that. Well, it's not necessarily true because now we have the HPV virus. So I really think that our training as far as what is current in epidemiology is we're just not there. And a lot of people, one, don't know what they're looking at. 2, don't want to be wrong. 3, don't want to tell the patient and they have an abnormality or cancer. Because if you think about what you just said, you teach people how to do a cancer exam. Would you bet your life that spot that you saw was or was not cancer?
Well, that's the thing. It would be a referral, right? We're just doing a screening,
right?
Not an exam.
Exactly.
Right.
So why are we telling or training people to do oral cancer exams?
Call them more screenings.
So what we're looking for, and in the trainings that I do, is changing our verbal skills so we educate the patient about the value of what we do, why we do it, and what we're going to do to take care of them long term. Because we can only see an abnormality, monitor the patient, and get them to the proper referral if necessary. Right. Because sometimes that thing that you see could be trauma. And within 2 weeks, that trauma will go away. But what happens when it doesn't? How prepared are you? What system do you have in place to either use technology like fluoroscopy, use cytology, use a referral? Who do we refer what to? And a lot of people don't have those systems in place. And we have created the system with the National Cancer Network, and that's what we want to share with the world.
Have either of you two ever referred out?
Well, I was just going to talk about that, actually. I'm more of a pro. Like, if I see anything there, I point it out to the patient because I want them to watch it. I want them to be aware that I looked. I am doing my job. But 99% of the time, the doctor will come in and be like, oh, No big deal.
Yeah.
And that happened once. And my patient, same thing, had squamous cell carcinoma.
Yep.
And I saw her at Taco Bell like 2 months later, and I didn't even recognize. I know
Her
Taco
life
Bell. I didn't even
will
recognize
never,
her.
ever be
She
the same.
didn't have any jaw
Right.
at all. It was gone.
Right.
It was so sad.
Right.
I don't know if she even lived.
And so the issue with all of that is that, again, even physicians that are trained and are more trained and have a license that does not, fall into what we do as dental hygienists, especially with the liability aspect, is that we're still not effective. Because we're looking at something and assessing something, and our eyes and our hands and our nose and our voice do not diagnose.
Right.
It's our objective is to identify the risk factors, create a system in our practice that we're all comfortable with, and when the patient either meets that criteria, can stay being monitored. We may monitor them based on other systemic risk factors more closely, or we will have a protocol to refer them out. And unfortunately, with the HPV virus, you could have a patient that has multiple suspicious areas, and you can refer them out to an oral surgeon, or you can refer them out to a periodontist who does biopsies, and it's their, I'm sorry to say, guess as to which one to biopsy, because you're not going to do multiple site biopsies. You're just not.
Right.
No.
And so our training and our objective is to give people who are willing to be open-minded enough, the systems and the communication skills, to not only screen for abnormalities, but to qualify the patient to the right person based on what they see in their mouth to get that whatever needs to be done.
Nice. Most of our listeners are students and new grads.
Fantastic.
So what is your message to them? What can they do from the time they hear this podcast moving forward?
And faculty.
And faculty too,
what could I do better when I teach my students?
I think the biggest objective is to consider what we learned in school as a foundation and a springboard into more training, more educational opportunities, coming to events where you can learn and put into action what you've learned. I've been an educator for almost 17 years now, and although I love to go to programs, I don't want to go back to my employer and say, here, this is what I learned. Can we do this? And they take the dream away from me because they don't have the same experience or exposure I did to want my mindset to change. And so I think the most simple answer is to be open-minded to everything, step out of the clinical box and realize that we are empowering our profession to do better, be better, reach more people, save more lives.
Amen, sister. That's awesome. Well, so how can listeners ask you questions or find out more information?
They can call me. My phone number is 561-358-7660. It's on all the time.
First
And
time
this
we've
is
ever
true.
had a phone number.
No, this
Yeah,
is
this
true.
is the
I
first
call
time. I love
Debbie
it.
all the time, and she's there for me. Not even about just this, just me in life. She's
That's
a good
awesome.
counselor.
Yeah.
For sure.
And then do you have email or do
I
you
have
prefer
email.
the
It's
call?
Debbie Z, DEBBIE as in zebra, at nationalcancernetwork.org.
Okay. Visit the website.
Got a website, www.nationalcancernetwork.org. We've got a new website that's gonna launch in the next couple of days. We have one up now, but we've got a new and improved one so we can expose our visionary team to the world and what our objectives are. And we have our first training session coming up in Tennessee, of all places. They invited us to do our first launch, and we've got almost 137 registered professionals already, and we haven't even sent the flyer out. So I think it's pretty
Awesome.
cool because people want to learn.
Well, good. And I think the call to action from this podcast is visit the website.
Right.
Just learn a little something, just baby steps
Right.
into it. And if they have more questions and want to know more information, give you a call.
Absolutely.
Send you an email.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, our objective is to empower people, and it's not just our responsibility as healthcare providers and licensees. It's the consumer.
Yeah.
I'm just tired of hearing, why didn't they tell me?
That is actually, I think I've said it multiple times on this podcast, but that is what I've pretty much based my career on. Is I don't want to be the one. I don't want them to ever say she never told me. So they get overeducated half the time.
Right.
But I don't ever want a patient to come back and say, well, she never told me.
Right.
Like, that's my fear.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And I have a question. One last question for you, Debbie.
Sure.
So we have the Oral Cancer Network, and Oral Cancer Foundation. Can you explain the difference between the two?
Well, we have the National Cancer Network.
That's what I meant. Oral Cancer Foundation.
I said that earlier too. I'm like, oh.
I even wrote it down,
so
and I
dumb.
didn't read it.
It's okay. No, listen, there's a lot of passionate people out there who've been affected by late-stage diagnoses. There's the Oral Cancer Cause, there's the Oral Cancer Foundation, there's the National Cancer Network, there's there's a lot of people out there that have been affected by this nasty disease. The difference is probably in the action plan. OCF does a great job raising money for clinical trials and raising awareness. They have a screening, they have walks around the country to raise money for the many different things that they're involved with. Our objective, and it would be an amazing opportunity, which we have approached them, is to have the National Cancer Network come in the night before they do a walk and train the volunteers SOSA screening, which is a screening term that I've developed for screening oral and skin abnormalities. Because if you think the interior that we look for is the oral cavity, but there's also the outside exterior that we need to look at, including the lips and the back of the ears and the forehead and any piece of epithelial real estate that's open and exposed, I will be looking at. And it would be an amazing opportunity to partner with organizations across the country to train trainers to look for abnormalities so we can make what everyone is doing that much more effective.
Awesome. Thank you.
Well, I feel like I want to go check everybody around us now for oral cancer.
You normally have your
always. We got a glove person right next to us. Yeah. I'm going like, come on, open wide. Well, thank you.
My pleasure.
For all of this information.
So much for being here.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Incredible.
You'll probably be the first podcast that comes out in late August, early September.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
You'll be the headliner of the show.
I'll be back in the country then. That'll be awesome.
Awesome. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Listeners, I want to tell you a story I found on the web, which makes this Scaling the Web with Andrew.
Yeah. Okay. So this week for Scaling the Web, I want to ask you some questions based on a post that was in a forum that really got me kind of frustrated at the profession. And the funny thing is, our friend Carrie, shout out to Carrie, and I were talking about this. Like, she called me or I called her, and she's like, I'm so frustrated about this. Let me tell you why. I'm like, that's exactly what my Scaling the Web was going to be about.
So, is it about the hygienist with a kid that had cavities?
Yes.
I saw that.
Let me tell everyone the post that happened. So there was a hygienist, and then from what I understand, there's a hygienist that took her kid in and had, I think, 5 cavities or something like that. There's multiple decay. And was like, well, I do everything right. I do this, I do that. How come, they still have decay? And then it wasn't, I don't mind that, like that kind of that post, or like, tell me I'm not a terrible mom, tell me I'm not a terrible dad kind of thing. And then the problem I have is all this like subsequent posts after that were like, oh no, my kid had 5 cavities too. My kid had 10 cavities. My kid had 12 cavities. And everyone kind of came to the rescue of this hygienist, as opposed to saying, here's some helpful tips. Maybe we should change this. Maybe we should do that. Because decay is 100% a preventable disease. That's what we believe as a profession.
Right, yeah.
Yet we're just telling this other hygienist, misinformation getting spread around again. So let me ask you this then, Michelle.
Mm-hmm.
Do you honestly believe that decay is 100% preventable?
Yes. However, I do also think accidents happen. And when they do, you have to figure out why. Because it's not going to be the same for everybody. Is that the right answer?
I mean, well, it's your answer.
Which is right.
Matters, right? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I think it is. And what we're learning as a profession is that not everyone's the same. And pH and diet and polyphenols and xylitol, and it's not just about fluoride anymore. Like, it's a lot of things changing, and I'm not going to go one way or the other with this fluoride thing because I still drink water with fluoride and I'm quite okay with it. But there are things outside of fluoride that can help nourish and strengthen and remineralize teeth. So I don't do what kids or decay ever. So tell me your thoughts.
Well, my thoughts are, like, my children they've never had a cavity. We also make sure that they brush. They have their Sonicare. Allison does a really good job of making sure that they don't have treats outside of the weekends. I mean, we're not like crazy, but like we do, we parent them. We regulate their intake.
Shut your mouth.
I know, it's crazy.
Parent your child?
Do you know that Allison makes sure that they have a vegetable for every meal?
What?
I mean, not every meal, but
does it come out of a can or a box?
Lunch? No, neither. Yeah.
It's a shock.
I know. Like, there's a whole section of the grocery store that has fresh fruits and vegetables. I didn't know if you guys knew that. And they have plastic bags that you put the stuff in, and then you can weigh them.
Don't use the plastic bags. Plastic is so bad.
Shut your face. So, anyways, I'm not on this thing like, oh, my kids are so much better than everyone else's. But no, it's about the parenting. It's about the communications. And you know what? I had to have a talk with my middle son, Hiram, multiple times. I think I might have said this on an episode before, but he came down and his laterals are positioned palatally. And so he wasn't doing a good job getting to them because the width of the Sonicare was so wide, it's wider than that space. And so he has to adapt the toothbrush to be up and down as opposed to side to side to be able to get into that space. And so he and I had to have a talk about that. And I sent him back up there. I said, go do another 2 minutes. And so he came down about 3 minutes later. There was still some plaque on his teeth. I could still see it. And so we had to have that talk and educate.
Yeah.
And there was
you need to get him a Tepe Compact Tuft.
Whatever. So there's another time that Allison went up and saw Molly, my 4-year-old, like really, really, really close, like leaning over the counter with her face right in the mirror. And she's like, what are you doing? She's like, I'm just checking to make sure I brushed good enough.
Oh, that's so cute.
Yeah. Aww. So like we have that conversation at home about brushing. We, controlled diet for the most part.
But I also think that it's not always sugar based. We talked about pH, but also gastric, acid reflux, things like that. I mean,
which is actually kind of prevalent in kids if you're not watching them closely.
There's a lot of things. It's not just but that's why I say I think it's 100% preventable, but things happen. Something in each child might be different, and what you've done for the first one might be not what works for the second one, and so you might get a cavity, and you just got to figure it out.
And that's where evidence-based dentistry comes in.
Yep.
Is not treating everyone the same. It's not 6-month cleanings across the board, everyone. It's not.
It is not.
You need to look at that patient.
Insurance companies.
Their needs. Screw you, insurance companies.
Yeah.
Well, not really. Thank you, insurance companies, but
you need to get updated,
sponsored by.
Yeah, Delta Dental.
They really need to. Delta Dental. Thank you. Yeah. So that's kind of my scaling the web today. I really want all the hygienists and all the dental professionals really to focus on not necessarily coming to everyone's defense just to make them feel better, but by helping and educating other hygienists in the right way.
Absolutely.
And I'm not saying that person was a bad mom I think she was a mom, for her child having cavities. Like you said, accidents happen. That's okay.
Yeah.
You're not a bad person. You're not a bad person at all. However, maybe everyone else, I'm kind of pissed at you.
Well, I think what a great learning experience, though. I mean, it sucks that it was on her child, but now she can go teach other moms. She can teach the moms on that Facebook forum. Like this, I think Carrie was a good example that she was like, yeah, we started getting some, like an incipient lesion, and she did whatever she did, and now they're still restorative free. Like, learn from each other and understand that there are other things outside of brushing and fluoride too.
Yes. The end.
The end.
It's about that time. Grab your blanket and a glass of wine. It's story time with Michelle.
All right, Andrew, are you ready to learn something today?
Yay. Yes.
Okay, so this article comes from the Journal of Clinical Periodontology from 2015. I don't see the month. Hold, please. Don't see the month. But it's volume 42, if anybody wants to go find this article. It is called Variables Affecting Tooth Survival and Changes in Probing Depth, a Long-Term Follow-Up of Periodontitis Patients. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
I really need you to pay attention, Andrew.
I'm working on it.
Okay. The ultimate goal of periodontal therapy is to preserve teeth by resolving the inflammatory process and arrest disease progression. Therefore, tooth survival or tooth loss and factors that are associated with it are of great interest in longitudinal reports of periodontal therapy. Several long-term studies reporting tooth survival were published since the 1970s. These studies report tooth loss during periods ranging from 6 months to 53 years in patients from different geographical locations, which were treated in different settings, such as universities and clinics and private periodontal specialty clinics and stuff. So with various reimbursement systems, programs, and private insurance programs. Tooth survival has been associated with a multitude of factors. These include local periodontal and dental conditions, patient factors such as age, gender, systemic health, environmental factors such as socioeconomic status. Most of the recent reports or studies report on tooth survival in patients from university settings, which is another issue that I have with implant studies. However, quality of dental care and extent of data collection in private practice settings around the world are probably different from those that exist in academic institutions. Relatively few publications from private practices are available, which may provide the dental practitioner with field information that may aid in treatment planning. Therefore, the aim of the present retrospective study was to evaluate long-term tooth survival and associated factors in patients treated and maintained in a private periodontal practice. The secondary outcome variables included changes in probing depth, bleeding on probing, and plaque score. You with me?
I'm with you.
Have I lost you?
Not yet.
All right, so I'm going to go down to the conclusion. And I'll read anything else you want me to elaborate on. So active periodontal therapy followed by regular scaling and root planing results, followed by regular supportive periodontal therapy or maintenance, results in relatively low tooth loss rates and continuous reduction in probing depth. Probing depth after the initial phase therapy and age at admittance were found as strong prognostic factors for long-term tooth survival among periodontally maintained patients. It is well established that tooth survival is influenced by the combination of different factors, which might have a synergistic effect. Thus, Cox regression analysis seems to be a more appropriate tool for analyzing risk factors associated with tooth survivals. One of the shortcomings of this study is the lack of plaque index and bleeding on probing at whatever analysis they did. So long-term data on tooth survival and changes in periodontal parameters require extensive documentation followed by statistical analysis, both of which are usually performed in academic settings. This may explain the relative scarcity of data from private periodontal practices. Yet when available, these data are particularly valuable in extending our knowledge regarding the effect of periodontal therapy. So pretty much what we understand is that a lot of things are discussed or documented in more of the university settings, which isn't always fair.
Right. Well, it's kind of like doing a clinical trial on adhesives for, bonding your resins or whatever in a laboratory.
Hey, do you know what I found out
in
this
a
week?
very perfect
That
What?
That I need to start reading. So you hear things from Oral-B and Sonicare and Waterpik and how they all have extensive research, which when I ask if I can have it, they don't really give it to me. And almost none of it can be found in Cochrane, database. And things like Sonicare Air Floss, its research is on a model. Not even on a patient. It's on a model. A lot of the toothbrush studies are one study. Like they did a study and said, here is the research to validate and prove our point. So, I love research. You and I both believe full-heartedly in evidence-based research. But as we grow as clinicians, we also need to be very well informed about what research is good and valid and what is done on a model.
I agree.
Isn't that interesting?
That's stupid. I hate that so much.
Isn't that crazy? I mean, I'm not talking bad about Sonicare. I love my Sonicare, but I'm a little disappointed in you. Not going to lie. So, do you have any questions about...
I do not have any questions. That was a wonderful story time with Michelle.
Shut up. Feel your sarcasm.
That wasn't. That's genuine.
I feel I'm looking back through to make sure there wasn't any like little things that I wanted to talk about on.
I liked at the beginning of the conclusion. It's like, oh yeah, by the way, scaling replanning works. That was the part of the yeah.
Okay.
It's like with steady decline in pocket depths, and I'm like, yeah, of course.
So this discussion, it says in present studies, 7.5% of teeth were lost during an 8 to 18 year follow-up, which amounts to 0.16 teeth. Previously, 7.7% tooth loss after 10 years among untreated periodontitis patients. Similarly, in another retrospective 22-year study of 600 periodontal-treated patients, tooth loss was 7.1% with a mean loss of 1.8 teeth per patient. More recently, several studies have revisited this issue. I'm going to go back down to the age. So pretty much what I am understanding is that periodontal disease, let me try again. Periodontal disease doesn't always result in tooth loss. However, we know so much of the systemic inflammatory issues that go along with periodontal disease. So that in combination with tooth loss, I think really ramps up the need for better supportive periodontal therapy. The end.
Yes.
So that's it with Storytime with Michelle. Hope you enjoyed it.
What's coming up? What do we have coming up?
I have to go to Vegas.
Voices of Dentistry.
Yes. Voices of Dentistry. Do we still get a discount code?
No, it's over.
Bummer.
Pay full price, suckers. We'll try and work out another one, actually. Just be patient.
Yeah.
Or sign up and just sign up.
Just sign
You can
up.
actually probably still use that. What was the promo code from last time? Slackers?
Regret.
Oh, regret. That's what it was. You can probably still use that probably for another week or so until they deactivate it. But we'll work on getting another one. It probably won't be the same discount, but we'll try and get like $100 off or something if we can.
Yeah, guys. And it's Nashville. And it's Andrew in a honky tonk.
Okay, what's a honky tonk again? That's just where they sing stuff?
Yeah, it's just like a country bar.
Like, oh. I don't know if they let my kind in there.
It's questionable. We'll have to get you some boots while you're there, too.
No. Yeah, those boots that cost like $12,000.
Yeah, they're not cheap.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. What else? It seems like there's some other stuff going on. You know what I'm missing right now? Everyone, if you want to go on a mission trip, other than the one with Michelle and I, somosamigos.org. They are in the Dominican Republic right now in October without me. This is the first year in the last few years that I haven't been there.
Are you sad?
It's so sad. Yeah. I feel really bad because one of my coworkers is there because I told her I was going to go, and then I have this stupid state meeting that I couldn't get out of, and so I had to bail on him this year, and she ended up already going. So,
well, she'll get a great experience no matter what.
Oh yeah, she'll have a fantastic time. But I'm looking forward to Nicaragua. That's going to be fun.
Yep. It's going to be an interesting because I'm going to try to find some equipment that we could actually use there, so it'll be a little trial and error. So that'll be interesting.
And we'll have lots of recordings from those days.
Lots of recordings. But that's it for me.
That's it for me too.
All right, buddy. Well, have a good week. Bye, listeners. Bye, y'all.
Bye.